So today I would like to focus on, in Classpad.net, how to construct congruent segments and angles using both the circle tool, the compass tool, and a straight edge. So constructions, when you work with students, have no measurements because you're basing it on the understanding of circles, and circles have congruent radii, right? It's equidistant from all points on a circle to the center, and that's how we get congruent lengths. So I'm going to open up a geometry sticky here, and I'm going to make a segment. So we'll just use the segment tool and make a random segment. And it doesn't really matter where, how long, whatever, I can change it. So what if I want to construct a segment congruent to this? Well, students, the idea behind this is that you are using handheld compass and straight edge, no measurements. We don't want students measuring because the whole idea is based on geometric properties. So if I want something congruent to this, I know that if I make a circle, that all of the lengths of that circle would be the length of this radius. If I make a circle that has a radius the length of AB, then I know that any segment in that circle would have the same length. And so here's where you get your compass tool. So for students, that's an actual compass, but for us, we're going to use, let's spread this out a bit here. We're going to go into the construct menu, and you'll notice down here is a compass. So this is what students would do with their actual compass. They're going to basically open the compass, the 2 points on the compass, the one that you hold down for the center and the one that you open to be the radius. They're going to open it to the distance between A and B. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to simulate that with our compass tool. So I'm going to put my compass point here, and I'm going to open it to B. And so notice I get on mine, because I'm using software, I get a circle. What you then would have students do is to actually keep that locked position for the distance between A and B, and then find a center point. And so I'm just going to move this right here, put their compass down on that point, and make the circle. So our software tool has basically done that step for us. We opened it to AB, the radius. Here's our center that we hold it down, and we made the circle that is that distance. So students have done this too. They've got their segment, they've made a center point somewhere, and they opened their compass to this distance and then made that circle. So now what do we have? We have the original segment, and we have a circle. And how do I get I'm trying to make a congruent segment to this. Well, I know that this circle is this same distance as this segment, because that's how I open my compass, and so that any point on this is the same distance away, should be congruent. So all I have to do is either get my segment tool, but what we really want them to do is to get a point tool. And let's change the color here just so that it stands out. So I'm going to get my point tool. I'm going to put a point somewhere on my circle. And for students, you want to make sure they understand it doesn't matter where they put that point. It doesn't have to be in the same position as the original segment. It just has to be a point somewhere on this circle. So there's a point on my circle. Now I'm going to get my straight edge tool. So students are using straight edge, hopefully not one with measures, but I'm going to use my segment tools as my straight edge, and I'm going to connect, using my straight edge, the center point of that circle to the point that I put on the circle. And now I have a segment, and here's a segment. And if I did everything correctly, this segment should be the exact same size, length, distance as AB. And how do I know that? Again, it's my understanding of circles. All the points on this circle, no matter where they might be. So some students might have their segment going this way, some might have it this way, that way. It doesn't matter because all the points on this circle are equidistant from the center, and I made this radius be the distance of my original segment. So what you'd want students to do now is to maybe trace, or if they can fold, put these two segments on top of each other. Since I'm in software, I can actually move and kind of line it up here. And let's just see. And they look the same length, right? If I want, I could actually put them right on top of each other. I've got to be careful how I'm selecting here. They line right up on top of each other, so they are congruent. Why isn't it letting me? I think I'm too close. There we go. If I line them right up on top of each other, they land exactly on top of each other. So I have made a congruent segment. So that's all there is to a congruent segment. It's understanding that a radius If you open your compass to have a radius congruent to the given, you're going to create infinitely many congruent segments because you can use any radii. So let's scroll down and let's do something similar to angles. How do I make a congruent angle? So I'm going to open up a new geometry sticky, and let's just do a random angle. And I like mine to not always be in our typical, we tend to put angles and shapes in the same orientation every time, so I like to make it a little different. So here is this angle, and I'm trying to make an angle that's going to have the exact same opening, same angle measure. So I'm going to, again, go back to my circles. If I get a circle, what do I know about circles? I know that they have congruent radii. So I'm going to make a circle that intersects this angle. So notice I'm using the vertex of my angle, and I'm just going to open my compass, and here's where it's nice. You can tell your students, it doesn't matter how big or small you make this circle. Just make a circle so that it intersects two places, one on each side. So when I do that, and I want to make sure I get the intersection of these 2 points. So in my software, I use this point as my circle to stop it, but now I need to actually create that intersection point there. So I selected the line, the segment, and the circle, and I'm constructing the intersection. So when they're done, what they've done basically is create, here's their original angle, and we just used our compass to make any circle, so they all could have different circles, that intersected both sides. And why am I doing that? Well, now I know that these 2 points are the same distance from B, right? So they are on the circle. They're also intersecting my angle, and I'm basically going to use that understanding to use this distance here. So now we want to make an angle that matches this, so I'm basically going to copy this picture. So I'm going to change my color, and I'm going to just make a segment somewhere. So students would do the same thing, just have them make a segment somewhere, preferably, long enough to intersect, and then choose one of these points, and it doesn't matter which one, to be the center. Like B was the center, so G is now going to be our center. And we're going to use our compass tool to make a circle that uses this as the center that is the exact same as the circle we did up here, so whatever they chose. Well, how do we do that? We need to make sure it has the same radius. Our compass needs to open from the center to a point on the edge. That's how we know how to open it, so that it's matching and they're congruent, the radii match. So I'm going to get my compass tool, and I'm going to change my color to be orange. And let's get our compass tool, and I want to make another circle on here that has the same radius as this original. So I am going to choose, and you can notice that it's telling me what to do. Either select a segment or 2 points. Well, I want these 2 points, B to E or B to D, doesn't matter, they're the same. And by selecting those 2 points, I now have a circle that's exactly the same as this one, but now this is my compass. So students have opened their compass. They're going to go to the center they decided to use, the point they decided to use on their segment as the center, and they're going to put their compass there, and they're going to make that circle. So they've made this circle around the segment. So what does that do? Well, now I have kind of like half of this image. So let's make the construction, have them construct the point where they intersect. So we're going to do the intersection. And what's missing? Well, we're missing the other side. Well, how do I know how far open to make that angle? Well, I'm going to use this right here. Remember, a circle or radius is just a distance from a center to an outside point. So if I use either one of these as the center of a circle and then the other point as the distance from that circle, I'm going to get a congruent distance. So we're going to use our compass tool again, and let's change the color to green. And I'm going to get my compass tool, whoops, and I now want to look at the distance between this. Notice I don't have a circle here, but I could draw a circle here. So this distance to this, in fact, we could have just drawn a circle. Let's do a circle too, just to show you what we're doing. We're looking at the circle that is either coming from this center point out to this one. We could have gone the either way. They're the same circle, but I'm using the circle to identify the distance, this radius. I've opened my compass between these 2 points, which gives me a center and a radius, and here's that distance. And now what I'm going to do is take this compass, this distance that I've got on my compass, and put it on this point on my new segment. And notice what happens is this smaller circle, which represents the distance that the angle is open, basically, the radius here, is now intersecting. So small circles intersecting this larger circle here, which is going to be the point that matches up here that I'm going to open my angle to. So I'm going to construct the intersection. You'll notice on the software that there's actually 2 intersections, which is fine. It doesn't matter actually which one I use. I'm just going to use the one up here. So now let's change our color again. And now their last step, this is where the straight edge comes in, is to get their straight edge. So I'm going to actually use a ray here to take that point that they chose to be the center of the first circle and connect it with the straight line to one of the intersecting. So I'm going to connect it there. And then now I have an angle that should be congruent to this one. And so for, again, students, you're going to paper fold. Can they lay them on top of each other, cut them out, put them on top of each other to see that they're the same? You don't want to have to use measurement is the main key here. But the idea is, can you make this match exactly on top? And they do match exactly on top. So that's how you construct congruent segments and congruent angles, which all come into play later as we get into more complicated geometric construction.